good evening everybody and welcome, and my name is Hannelore Fobo. I'm really happy to be here at this museum, very nice museum in Turku, Aboa Vetus Ars Nova. And actually I have been looking forward to coming here ever since I've heard about this exhibition, because it's from the permanent collection of the museum. But this very room shows three artists who I all know or did know. So we're talking about a group of artists, Leningrad artists, the new artists, a group of artists from the 1980s, very important, very influential, and considered today, looking back, so say 30 to 40 years, the most important Leningrad avant-garde group of the late Soviet period. Of course, we speak about the first avant-garde, beginning of the 20th century. We speak about the second avant-garde towards the end of the Soviet period. And the Ars Nova collection has some of the most prominent members of that group. It has Timur Novikov, Evgenij Yufit and Evgenij Kozlov, so three artists born in the second half of the 1950s, beginning of the 1960s, so it's one generation of artists, and they also worked together and formed this very independent and very energetic movement in Leningrad, which got its strides through the perestroika period and then had international success. So we speak about the first international exhibition starting in 1988 and then 1999. If we want to be more exact about dating the group, we would say it started in 1982 and it ended in 1989, so 7 years, which is quite a lifespan for a group. So I will start to my left with some photographs of Evgenij Yufit. Let me put this away first. So Evgenij Yufit belongs to the Necro-Realist group, which was a group of about, I would say, 5 to 10 artists, basically making films, but he was the founder of the group about 1984. And filmmaking with 16mm films, black and white, and many of his photographs are actually film stills for these films, of which one was also made for a kinemascope publication, but that of course needed public funding, and this was very difficult to get for this kind of avant-garde film, which his films did have a subject, they did have a plot, but not one that you would easily follow up, obviously. Mainly the idea is to show a human being as part of a biological process, so living and dying are equally important, and decomposition of the body is also important. Of course, there were plays, but they, the actors or the artists in these films, they took great pleasure in performing with Evgenij Yufit. And you see the water side, everything that is a bit morbid, everything that is moist is very important. So we never know, are they dying, are they sick, are they in the process of creating something? So it remains a bit mysterious, but it is also lyrical at the same time. So we would call this probably avant-garde films or films, and they were quite successful in European avant-garde scenes. Evgenij Yufit was successful as a filmmaker, but also as a photographer and a painter. And well, he passed away in 2016. Like many of his companions from the new artists, there are heavy losses, and so he now has a large fan group, I would say. young artists, filmmakers trying to follow up his ideas, and especially a devoted group of his friends with whom he made films, who try to promote his art today, and also work with material that he couldn't use, but when he died in December 2016, he was making a new film with 16mm black and white, so that somehow will be concluded, hopefully. I'm going now to the other side of the hall, and here we have a very nice work, especially with this light shining brightly by Timur Novikov. Timur Novikov, born 1958, was a leading figure of the Leningrad underground. He had an enormous talent to motivate other artists, to bring them together, to create shows, to use all opportunities that he had to promote that group of people who were called unofficial artists, so that by and large had no possibility to show their art in real, how do you say, exhibition rooms, but they had to show them in movie theaters, in corridors and so on, but slowly and slowly with his energy and also with perestroika coming, of course, the group conquered the larger rooms, conquered public spaces, and Timur Novikov was a genius in promoting them, and also in promoting himself, one would say. And he discovered one method of taking out his art swiftly through the customs, which was a headache in the Soviet Union, is how to get out a work of art. He used textile works, and typically for the second half of the 1980s, he created the horizons. So it's very important also to have this horizontal line, and then two different textiles, fabrics on the lower half and the upper half, and then these very small emblems, the logos, which are taken basically from the early Soviet avant-garde from the 1920s or so, which were very popular at that time for creating as elements for public banners, for the so-called prolet cult. So that was art for the proletarians, and they had to be visibly recognizable, like Mayakovsky's art, for instance, the famous Rostar windows. So they had to be what in Russian we'd say znakovые, they had to be recognized easily, interpreted easily. But of course, it's a question of aesthetics. You know, the arrangement that he uses, this kind of V, and then the rocket getting up. So the aesthetic quality is very important. I would say more important than any political message that one would be inclined to interpret or to see in Timur Novikov's works. So congratulations to the museum for owning such a beautiful work. And we are now going over to works by Evgenij Kozlov, which we have on this side. Evgenij Kozlov, one of the early members also of the new artists who had been collaborating, working with Timur Novikov since the late 1970s already, in a different group called Letopis, Chronicle, and then Timur followed with a new group and asked Kozlov to join him because he always held Kozlov's works in high esteem, so he wanted Kozlov to be part of this movement or group. And we see works from the late 1980s here, and it's quite interesting with the works left and right. They represent two aspects of Kozlov's work from the late 80s, which are quite different, but equally important, I would say. So one is portraits of his fellow artists or musicians. In this case, we have Igor Verishev from the New Composers, and the other one on this side is more the emblematic local type, the creation of new, I would say, of new logos, transforming the old Soviet logos and giving them a positive charge. Now I will take one of the brooches that I brought along, and I will start with some words about this one. So, for an exhibition in 2016 in Poland, in the city of Lodz, which is a very good museum of contemporary art. The exhibition was called Notes from the Underground, and we had, of course, the New Composers, Notes from the Underground, which in a double sense, notes is music, but also ideas and concepts, and a reference to Dostoevsky's book again. So I made this booklet, and Kozlov demanded it to be very long and large, so that you can hardly, almost too much to hold it with both hands. So what I opened here is the aspect of portraitism, and we actually have the portrait of Igor. Hold it up again. So the portrait of Igor is one half, so to speak, of a diptych. So here on the left-hand side we have Igor, and on the other side we have Valery Alachov. Okay, so Valery Alachov is the companion of Igor Verishev. The two of them form the duo, the New Composers, who were the most important, or the first electronic music group in the Soviet Union in the 1980s yet. And Kozlov created their large double portrait, and here we have Igor, and it's striking. When I analyzed the portrait for this booklet in 2016, I found the similarities to a very famous double portrait, one can say, by Andrei Rublev, so Russian icons from the now hosted at the State Russian Museum, and it is of course not a religious icon, it is not for a church, but we see that the arrangement or the format, the arrangement of the figure, the low horizon, and many other details here, for example the frames, have similarities to these classical ideas of painting. So what I want to say in this sense, that although these are modern paintings done at the end of the 20th century, so avant-garde paintings, they still use the whole wealth of the artist's cultural background, both from Russian icons, from Rublev, but also of world history of art on the other side. So if we look at the portrait of Igor, what we see here up there is the word "niet," no, and this is the answer given to the question "mir," which is peace. So Igor is answered twice by the skeleton arm, whether he allows peace, but it's a question put forward by death, and this is denied. Peace is denied to death. So it's a very vibrant and energetic position, declining anything that is dead, anything that is gone. And for the exhibition here, we contributed from our own collection with the template or the stencil that Kozlov created for the skeleton arm, so we can compare it here and here. actually it is two-sided because it was used earlier for another painting, which is now in the Russian Museum, for portrait. It's called the portrait of Timur Novikov with arms consisting of bones. So we can see the scheme of the skeleton arms here already in 1988. So here they are applied in both ways, front and reverse. And then we can see here the original stencil, and again used coming out from the earth, stretching out. It's a bit spooky, of course. If you imagine you're going maybe through a churchyard at night and then an arm comes out and asks for peace. So the word peace we find again, and now I come to the next painting. We find again on this work. It's the same word, peace, mir. But this work has a very interesting headline, I should say, on top. And actually, this is what we chose for my talk to you this evening, because it's the talk is called "Of War and Peace," of peace and war. And read in Russian, it says "Strach vragam." So if we translate all letters, if we translate the words completely, beginning with this letter, the C is the Russian S, strach, so that would be fear or terror. And vragam, enemy, so that would be terror to the enemy, okay, so destroy them. However, if we concentrate on those letters that are marked black or dark color and leave away the yellow ones, we have the Latin for pax, and pax of course is peace. And here again, it reflects the word below. So we have this, I might say, play of words. It's on the one hand side, it's fear to the enemy, but it's at the same time peace to the enemy. So it's crossing the boundary of opposite forces. It's uniting these opposite forces. And another sign of that we have very small up there. That's the Russian cross, Orthodox cross, just between the two letters. And peace to the enemy, terror to the enemy. It's really a matter of your attitude, a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of what you want to make of it, what you want to make of opposing forces. If you want to unite them, or if you want to accentuate them. And that is very important because this painting, at the first glance, maybe look like some black work of pop art. Okay, it uses a lot of logotypes that Kozlov created himself, like here below art from the USSR, art is SSSR. He used that for handbags, he used that for objects, he used that for other works. So this is the period 1987 to 1989. Another opposition, of course, is the woman and the man, also using the language of constructivism. And these were worked out later with very important paintings called points of contact. We see that here, points of contact, so the man and the woman, and later in the 1990s he continued reworking these emblems in a very interesting way. So they still have a history or a biography to come. But this is one, I would say, of the earliest appearance in that painting. What is also very important is the technical preparation of such a work, because it's a textile work, like Timur Novikov's textile work, and it has similar colors, so in this there are some similarities, but it is much more meticulously prepared, because if Timur Novikov creates an even horizon, adding two pieces of textile to each other, here Kozlov sewed together. I tried to count the pieces that he really sewed together using his old single sewing machine from 1937, the one that you operate by hand manually. And I'll just show it because we have scenes here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the white pieces sewn together, and then we have 1, 2, 3. Let me see, 3, 4, 5, 6 red ones. So this is 11 plus the seam around. No, in this case it's attached directly. And this is also quite complicated because when you see that the border is not an even straight border, but it goes around in some kind of waves. It's a bit undulating, and this has to be created while sewing. You have to push the fabrics into one direction and so on. So this is quite a difficult process of preparing the canvas before you even start doing something on it. And very important again, here are the borders. So if we have a paper border, because this work is done completely on paper, on black paper bags that shielded photo paper before it was printed. So these black paper bags, and then they have also some red ones. Okay, so this marks the border. Here we have the border with the red fabrics, originally coming from, it's a textile which was used in the Soviet Union for banners, for political slogans, and Kozlov used that for a number of his works between 1987 and 1989. And so we have this very large border here that frames the white surface. And it creates an illusion of going from this world, from the so-called real world, to the world of art on the other side. So in conclusion, no, not in conclusion, because I still have to say a word about the videos before I come to a conclusion. So the videos, because I was speaking of 3 artists, but there are more than 3 artists. There are the new composers and some musicians from the group Kino, and they can be seen on our videos. This is a video by new composer Pierre Alechinsky. Here we see them both. And that one on the left was done by Kozlov and myself. By the way, we have again Timur Novikov, and so it's all the same, as the Russians say, tusovka, it's all the same scene. And that shows that they collaborated together quite intensely. Although, and that has to be stressed, I would like to say that again, each of them had their own individual position, their own approach to art, their own way of seeing aesthetics, but basically what characterizes the Leningrad independent avant-garde scene was the aesthetic view of art, the aesthetic transformation of what artists saw around them, and it acquires a different potential, it acquires a different value. So things seen through art and people seen through art are not the same any longer. they become something new. And this is the example here, for instance, of Igor. It's of course not a portrait of Igor in the sense that if you want to get to know Igor, all you have to do is to look here. So it's a transformation, it's a transfiguration, it's an aesthetic process in the sense that it tries to discover some spiritual worlds that are less evident in everyday life. They have to be found and expressed through art, or they have to be created. And this is something that connects the artist, although, as I hope to have been able to explain, each of these artists, be it Timur Novikov, be it Evgenij Yufit, be it the new composers, or Evgenij Kozlov, they all have their own individual way to transform reality. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope this was an interesting presentation, and stay in touch, watch our YouTube videos, and we'll soon show you more.